I think like you and I have spoken about crypto a little bit, and
Yeah.
I think there's a really unique way to start looking at it, both from a utility, like more from a utility standpoint than from a pure technology and asset standpoint. I kind of like liken it to like when the gold rush happened in the US, there were a lot of people who grabbed the pans and pots and wanted to start mining for gold. And I think there were those who saw the gold rush, saw what it meant, and started building things around the gold rush. The people that made the actual money were people selling pickaxes, shovels, mining, and all the equipment around it. And when I start to look at coaching, I think that as crypto evolves and as the creator, and I'm calling it like the innovator economy, starts to grow, and you have these tools that allow connection and really scale of intimacy at a level that we haven't seen before, I think that's where the money is going to be made. So I wanted to sort of jump in with you on how you're starting to think about crypto in a brand building and coaching sense versus buying NFTs to store wealth from a pure asset standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, my interest in buying the NFTs was kind of twofold. With like, firstly, I can see a future for the project, that I was backing. It's basically it was a way for me to back the project that I'm already invested in and kind of understand where they're going with their marketing and innovation. So that's the Theta project, and Theta Drop it's the most legit kind of NFT exchange in the sense that you can buy with fiat and you can off ramp with fiat, and it has KYC. So it's very different to the OpenSea kind of experience. But I guess we're jumping into the weeds a little bit with that. But the thing is that I see the NFTs play being like the App Store is to business.
Yep.
To apps, the NFTs are to business. Like, it's going to completely change the way that people experience business. NFTs are going to revolutionize that in the way that the App Store changed what it is to build an app. Without the App Store, apps don't have a lot, and business is going to be revolutionized, especially sort of communities and the influencer type of a scene are going to be drastically sort of impacted by this new innovation. But yeah, as you say, it's not the technology in itself. Like, a lot of the stuff so far is just talking about the technology itself. Like, there's all these crypto influencers, but it hasn't actually flowed on to the people who really do actually have influence and are adding a lot of value to the world. Like guys like,
Yep.
The big podcasters like Joe Rogan and these guys, they haven't made any plays into this crypto NFT world. Gary Vee is probably the first one, to really already have a big influence and then start making plays in this world. I mean, he's a good example at least. So he's got his V Friends NFT that's like worth 7 ETH. I think it got up to like 70,000 at some stage in US dollars. Now it's sitting at like 28 or something like that. But yeah, that's where it's going to get really interesting, is when we stop talking about cryptos and we just look at what they actually facilitate, for the world. Like, that's where it really gets interesting.
Yeah. So I think that, we definitely hopped into the weeds there. I guess pulling back a little bit. So I think you're spot on with how I'm thinking about it as well. Because I think if you look at like some of the early utility NFTs where using smart contracts, and maybe we do a separate episode on backing up the terminology for all these, you can use smart contracts to really like give certain permissions and allow people different access points to you and different levels of connection. So I think when you look at kind of like the base ground right now, how are you starting to evaluate the technologies they come? And how can coaches look at, okay, what is a coaching business? And like, what are some utilities that I offer right now that I could probably scale with an NFT?
Yeah. So the membership model itself, I think, is going to be revolutionized, and subscription products have been huge for the last 10 years. You worked at Uber, like you kind of get the idea of that recurring revenue models and how to sort of so I see like, I just jump in, like that's the way I learn about things. Like, I jumped in on the JRNY, the Journey NFT club. So this is a guy with 600,000 followers on YouTube, and he bought like 50 Bored Apes. So that's worth somewhere between like $10 and $15 million, and that's just one of the plays that he's made. But he got there early on some stuff, so he's got that credibility. And yeah, like, he just launched his membership product. So he put out 10,000 tokens at 1 ETH per token, and he sold 7,500. So that's a $30 million launch. Thanks for coming. And he's going to give back to the community one of those Bored Apes and some other, like he's given away some other NFTs as part of, like, that was part of the deal coming in. And then he's given us like, there's links there of like, okay, you can get on the whitelist to this project, or you can, you know, buy this project on discount. And it's projects that he's interested in. And oftentimes, like what you see with the NFTs is like, often the good projects will they'll sell or pre-sell at a cheaper price than as soon as they go to market, the price is already much higher. So I recently bought one on Theta with it. They have a secret pineapple society. It's $200 for the thing, and then they jumped to $1,000 like pretty much straight away. And then they've been between sort of 1,000 and 2,000 as like the floor price, and the best ones are sort of 30,000 or 50,000. So that's an example of a use case right there. It's like a guy with a big YouTube following. Now, what's interesting is, you know, he didn't sell them all. He sold 7,500 of them, which is really, you know, it's good going. I'm not sure how he's going to go about getting the rest out, because you can purchase them now on OpenSea. I paid nearly 2 ETH for mine because I didn't see when the launch was, and I wasn't really interested in NFTs that much, like 2.5 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever that launch was. It wasn't until I kind of bought my own more expensive NFT and really started to dive deeper. But yeah, I'm experiencing that. So what you get with that at the moment is pretty much access to a separate part of his Discord. And there's like a plugin on Discord where it checks what you've got in your wallet. So you have like MetaMask is like a place where you can hold your NFTs. Like most people will hold their NFTs there. So you basically make a connection between the Discord and your wallet, and it says, it can only see what's in there. It can't do anything with it, but it says, oh yeah, it's in there. So then it gives you access to that area of the Discord. And that's also happening with WordPress now with LearnDash, where you can have it gated. So you have to hold a certain amount of a token, or you have to hold an NFT to be able to get into, actually, I'm not sure if they have it NFT gated, but they have it like token gated. Or maybe it's just actually off the MetaMask address. We're just looking at integrating. It is kind of integrated into the site that we're putting online now. So it's something that can make the user experience smoother in terms of not having to use passwords. That's something that's coming. And that what Journey's done is really possible because his audience are like relatively NFT savvy. So another project, I did a podcast this morning with Gym Bros, and they're the first gym to put a token online, and when it gets to 80% sold, then they build the gym on the Gold Coast. So you can buy a lifetime membership to the gym, is how I understand it, for $250 thereabouts. It's 0.07 ETH, and that's like the cheapest lifetime gym membership you're going to get. It looks like a really cool gym that they're going to build. But I think the problem is that people who would want to buy that membership, they don't know anything about cryptos yet. Like he said, like if it was just tickets, if there were raffle tickets or something, everyone would have bought them. But because they have to get MetaMask, they have to buy ETH. So it's on-ramping lots of people into the world of NFTs. So that's like a contrast in how it's used. It's like if you want to use it with people who aren't crypto people, then you have to be prepared to like talk them all through how to buy it. So super, super early in the adoption phase for like fitness people and people like me to be talking about this stuff. Like I would say 9 out of 10, I work with a lot of coaches, 9 out of 10 coaches, like I'm on-ramping them into the crypto or NFT world. Like not many of them already own something. So yeah, that's like how it's playing out practically so far.
Well, I think you bring up a couple of interesting points there. I think one, like when I look at this, I think we've just gone through like a big, like I think the information economy of like really paying for access to information. I think coaching, whether it's mentorship for business or whether it's coaching, like actually getting like bolts and nuts, like nutrition, diet, training, all dialed in, like that really picked up over the last couple of years. And when I look at NFTs, I think has a real opportunity to alter that in both senses. Like one from a mentorship standpoint of like, you can now kind of scale the unscalable to where you can offer certain portions of your time or like private access to you via these tokens and NFTs, and then those can remain in circulation. So when somebody's kind of got the value out of that, they can then put that back out, and hopefully like you added enough value and continue to add more value that like your kind of going rate, so to speak, is more expensive. And then on the contrast to that, you as a creator and as a coach have a chance to kind of like preload value. Now, this is all kind of like based on the context of like you have to add value as a coach. Because I think where a lot of people are going to get in trouble with this, and you see it some in like the development communities, is you develop something, you put out a roadmap and then don't deliver on it. I think there are going to be people who use NFTs for these launches, and then say the gym bros don't end up building the gym. But I think if you have a track record of value and you have that integrity behind you, it's such a cool way as a coach to be able to front load your value. Like say you and I wanted to build a podcast studio and like really go big, we could offer an NFT for this. If we had the following, if we had the integrity and the value, we could have our community kind of build that for us. And then we could offer more premium content to them.
Yeah. There's so much application for it. And as you say, like you take a lot of the risk out of it. So someone could buy a really premium product, really premium ticket. Like even the Bored Ape is a good example. But imagine if the Bored Ape was like a school. Imagine if you were going to get like tutored by, Joe Rogan and Andrew Huberman and Ben Patrick and, Mark Bell for owning that Bored Ape, like bought you that utility. You buy that thing for $200,000, you sit with those guys for a year, and then you sell it for $250,000, and you just got tutored by like the biggest minds in kind of stuff that guys like us like.
Yep.
You got paid for it. Like you just got paid to learn. Like it's a revolution. Like it's so big that it's like it changes everything. And looking at all these NFT launches, like they're mostly crap, right? Like they're mostly like, yeah, we'll work something out later. That like the artwork's cool, and we're gonna make like a cool place where you guys can meet each other. I was like, yeah, cool, but like, who are they going to be? It's cool with Bored Apes because it's $200,000, but because you have to have a buy-in of like being relatively well off or being a celebrity or whatever. So that makes that community cool, but you can't really start like that. If I launch an NFT tomorrow and say, yeah, like this is good because it's $500,000, like come with me. It's not gonna fly. Where I don't see projects yet that have actually like really loaded value into it. Like where's the Joe Rogan NFT at 1 ETH where, you get to listen to the podcast from now on, or like, there's so much potential for this that it's like it hasn't started yet. To my mind, it hasn't started yet. Like the real value of this space. Yeah.
So I think with it, you bring up an interesting point. It hasn't really started. So I guess how can coaches start to build the brand now? Because I think if you look at the people, Gary Vee's been the most successful with it so far. Kevin Rose, who's another big guy in the NFT community, has an awesome podcast called Proof and Modern Finance. Would highly recommend for anyone to listen to both of those. I know he's launching one to the Proof community, really utility NFT similar to that, but like he's got a pretty solid brand. He built Dig way back in the day, and I think it's really been like on the dot as far as a lot of tech predictions. So how can coaches start to build their brand and their value now to where they have access to this? Because I think that like you have to have that trust and value and integrity first, and then the NFT really allows you to mobilize that. But if you just launch, like you said, a crap NFT and you're launching it on promise, some of it might hit, and I think a lot of it won't.
Yeah, everyone's rushing to get their artwork onto an NFT at the moment. And people are buying them of just pure speculation and fun. And that shows the power of it. And like people do want to talk about like some weird thing that they just bought. Like that shows the power of this stuff is like, even when it's nothing, people are happy to put like 0.1 ETH in and just go, yeah, like let's roll the dice on this, snail cartoon for $400. And there's lots of them selling, and a lot of times there's literally nothing there. So it's a really crazy wild time. The message to the coach is like, to me, there's no shortcut. Like that is the shortcut. And I guess that shortcut kind of exists at the moment. If you can, basically it's not a scam if you're upfront and you say, yeah, I'm going to have a member site for this, or I'm going to, give away $10,000, and you do that, but it still doesn't, it's still a crap project. You're still getting ripped off. But for a coach, like I don't see a shortcut. Like I see this as being like the ultimate accountability thing where it's got to be real. And I see it being like hyper competitive, where this Gym Bros thing, like they're the first in the world to sell a gym like this. I think there's going to be thousands and thousands of gyms that are selling like this, and some of them will have strong local communities, and they're like they'll know people, and there'll be like an innovative idea behind what they're going to do. The Gym Bros one, like they're still going to sell normal memberships, where I think if their token really takes off, they should make it exclusive, so you have to have the token to be there. But if it becomes like $1 billion turnover project, then the fees there, they get 7.5% on transactions, my understanding with OpenSea, then they'll be able to run off that. They're also running a clothing brand off the back of it, right? So there's all that stuff there. But I mean, you can't fake being Gary V. Like if you start a thing V Friends, but you spell it just with 3 E's or 1 E instead of 2, you might get a few people, but it's not going to fly in the new world. Like it's ultimate accountability, and a lot of the projects at the moment are kind of anonymous and just wacky stuff. But I see it being like you're going to have to be super transparent. And to be honest, like Zach, like I think most people, like it's not for you. Like you have to be good. It's going to be like so competitive. Like you think online training is competitive now, it's going to be 10 times more competitive in this kind of world in my mind, because you can get it you get it kind of for free with that flipping kind of idea that we're talking about. You go and train with Marcus Philly or ATG Online in this new model. You do it for a year and then you flip your token, and it's not. I don't know how it's going to work. Like there will be a subscription version of it where you do keep paying, I'm sure, but there will also be these ones where it's just like one-off lifetime kind of payment, which it'll be. I mean, maybe you've got insight into that, but I see the real solution, like, be more valuable. The other thing is going to be like connection, collaboration. Like everybody in the NFT world, it's all about community and connection. So being legit and being really valuable and getting super hyper connected is going to be like the answer for 99% of people who can't like carry a huge brand on their own. It's going to be about finding ways to play together with smart contracts and collective energy.
Yeah. Well, I think that like in a sense that the connection piece is really cool, because you got that trope about the Kevin Kelly 1,000 true fans, which I think is dead on the mark. But I think that like with these NFTs, you can really identify and aggregate those fans in a really interesting way. And because like you can even cap that at 1,000, if you continue to add value, like you said, like you become bigger and your brand becomes bigger, then like that access becomes worth more and more. The way I'm kind of thinking about the membership thing, and this is still something I'm playing around with the actual math on, is whether to go one or the other. Like one, like how strong are your previous results? But two, I think that like retention and churn is such a big thing in the training business, whether you're like, the better you are, the better that gets. But I think looking at the math behind it of saying like, what is my actual like lifetime value of a customer worth? How can I add more value through an NFT? And how could I basically pay for the LTV of a customer through that initial offering, whether it's like setting it up as a Dutch auction or however you do that, to where just in the beginning, you've captured what your current LTV is now. And you're predicating that on the fact that if you get better as a coach and your brand gets better and you're able to offer more and more value, then like that's your LTV now. And like that LTV should grow consummate to that. So I think you're going to get people who, when this becomes hyper competitive and you become like, if you want to go to like Ben Patrick for knee rehab, like to play professional sport, and there's only like 100 tokens for that, and Ben keeps getting better and better and better, and the brand grows, then you're going to have people who swap those in and out based on their training goal. And I think something like that, if you're the best at what you do, being really prominent in the training community, of where like maybe you've gone with Keegan, maybe like we've learned like really gone through like what you do with Sonny Bill. I played my season, I'm done with rugby. You can flip that, and then you can help the next up and coming guy. But like your value increases every time, like every result you produce. So I agree with you there. Like the hyper competitiveness of it is going to be really neat, and I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on coaches to provide more value and get creative with the value they're going to provide outside of just the results.
Yeah. Creativity is the biggest word. Like, I think this is just like a time for huge innovation, and a lot of the stuff so far is like giving money back or free NFT tokens, but you're going to see a lot more. And I think if you look at things like in the mentoring space, like where's the value? Like the value is in getting on a podcast, getting on a Facebook Live, getting on a mentoring call, going to a workshop. You've run these workshops for innovators. That how packaging that value as the bonus stuff, as well as potentially like the cash. It seems to work. But the thing is, like once someone is in the community, then it's their incentive for the community to get better as well. Like that's what changes so much with this. Like when you own the NFT, you actually own a portion of that project. And if you make the project better, then you add value to your NFT. So, the uncommon success, I'm looking at launching an NFT for what I'm doing, and I'm wrestling with all these different models of, okay, like do I start with like a really small group of super committed guys and then we like gradually build it out, or do we go with like a big mint like the Gym Bros and just let it feel as it feels and the value's there, so you're not going to get like a flip on that, but the value's there from the start. Like when you buy the Gym Bros, you're effectively buying the gym membership, so it's okay that you don't make all the money on a flip on the start, like with a lot of these projects, because you're buying into the value. So you don't need it to all sell out, and it doesn't matter to you because you bought it because you want to use it.
Yeah.
I'm going back and forward on like, do I launch with 8,888 tokens, or do I launch with 88 tokens and like sell the concept to my friends and we like all add value to the project, and work out like reward systems going back to the guys who are adding value and slowly build it out with a strong culture. Like this is like honestly what's going on in my thought process. So I think, coaches should be looking at it, thinking about it.
Well, I think that the word culture there is the most interesting, because I think that with this, the projects that you build and the people that you've added on those projects are going to shape the culture of that project. So really figuring out like who your ideal people are and targeting, I think, what is most valuable to them in those offerings, to where just like you're, yeah.
I've got the 88 written out, and you're one of them. I'm planning to propose it to the guys who I want in at the start.
Love it, man.
And if you select like, it's a whole different way of looking at this thing, right? Of like you choose the people, so you choose the culture.
Yeah. Well, I know we're running up on time. What are you leaning towards right now? Because I think I look at it as like, we talked this entire time. It's like NFTs allow you to multiply your value. So just like with anything else in coaching, if you're coming from a place of like, how do you add more value? I think that starts to structure your decision. So do you think the 88 is more valuable long-term, or do you think the 8,888 is more valuable?
The 88 would be to grow, and the benefit would be that those guys would they would have those OG tokens. So when you have the idea of getting to the 8,888, but there's a benefit to those guys who were the originals, and they can flip that token. But if you do get to the point of all the tokens being valuable, then those first ones are going to be, even more valuable. So it's not really either or. It's in my mind, like it's just kind of tactics of kind of how you play it. And there's so much once you start to think about it of like how you want to play the game of the launch and release. Like, do you want them to all get snapped up on day one? Do you build the hype and do you build the artwork and everything? Or do you go without artwork and you go like low key and you get kind of under the radar, and then, build momentum in results where, the people are actually raving fans, and it's just like an underground thing, like there's different ways you can go about it. I think it really depends on your audience size and your end game. And it's as I said, it's going to be very innovative and unique. So I'm looking forward to like talking it through more, with you. And maybe that's something that we can do on these episodes, is kind of, you can come back to me with some thoughts on, models and things that you're seeing, or, how you might play it. Because to me, that's the best way to learn, is like thinking about how you're going to apply it for yourself, and then looking at which ways it's working already. So like the journey example and the Gym Bros example, I think are really good ways to look at it. And there's a couple of other projects that I could, like I touched on the Secret Pineapple Society, and there's another one I'm involved with called Devolve. And each of the projects is very different, and you learn different things. To me, it's like best to be in them and have it and experience it. Like that's the best way to kind of learn, okay, that's what that one feels like,
I 100%, man. I think as we kind of rounded out today, the skin in the game, I think, is the most important. And yeah, would love to walk through both yours and my journey of like, how do you deploy these in a real-time business for a SaaS company, for a service business, and how do you start to figure these things out? But I think only in playing these games, owning the NFTs, owning tokens, getting out there and doing your own releases, are you really going to learn like what this is about and like what the technology can do? So like you said, like you can be the innovator and you can start to use this like very first level of technology. I think it's going to multiply out to tons and tons and tons, and you can be on the cutting edge of that.
There's never been a bigger opportunity than this in business from what I can see. Like it's wild, and we can talk more about where regulation is going to come into this, where there are a lot of unanswered questions, but
yep.
No matter what the answer to those questions are, like this is not going to go backwards. This is going forwards, and I really appreciate you opening up this conversation. I look forward to continuing it.
Love it, man. Keegan, take care.
Good man.